Yes, of course. They want to come here and to sit down. Yes, please. Okay, yes. والله لا ممكن البنات بدهم يجلسوا هون هم البنات. Of course, you are welcome. This is even to say shalom, to say peace be upon you, to peace. We are all brothers here, inshallah. Yes. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Please, daughters, sisters, come forward, please, if you like to sit down here. Brothers, there is no need for that. As I said today, that coughing is not because of smoking. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, everybody. Peace be upon you. My sons, it is an honor to have you here tonight in this beautiful day, in this day discussing one of the most important issues related to our time, to our community and society. And it is an honor to have with us one of our great scholars and teachers in medicine, especially in this side related to the issues of hookah and smoking. And I will give him most of the time. He is our guest, and we have to be generous with him with time. Right, Dr. Michael? So we are very generous with time. So you can take time as much as you can. We are here to learn, to benefit from your wisdom and from your experience. We want our children to be warned and to have awareness about any kind of smoking. And we want them and us to be ambassadors for goodness and for the best of the health for us and for our community. As I mentioned, we welcome Dr. Michael or Michael Widsman from NYU and his team. Some of our students, great students, working with him in his great research. So this is the time of listening, of learning. So I will leave him also to talk about himself, about his experience in this field, and also after that to talk about his research and how can we help him and support him in this issue. May Allah bless you. Thank you very much, Doctor, for being with us, and welcome. Please give him a round of applause. Is it good?
Can you hear me?
Yes, of course.
Assalamu alaikum. So, I am grateful to you and to the Imam for inviting me. It's very, very gracious of you. It's 8 o'clock. I'm here to share some information with you and then to ask if any of you would be interested in collaborating with us and working with us on an issue that I think is important not just to your community, but to the whole world. So I am the son of refugees. I'm the first in my family to have gone to medical school or to college. And I've now been a pediatrician for more than 40 years, taking care of other people's children. Most of the children that I've taken care of over the years have been children of immigrants or minorities who will soon be the majority of the United States.
If you want to use this also.
Will this work better?
Easier, maybe. Yes. Is it good?
You still can hear me?
Yes.
So one of the things that we've learned a great deal about, and I do not want to take your time by my lecturing you. I'll try to cover some information with you and then have you ask me or my young colleagues questions that you might have. But smoking, most of us know, is the leading preventable cause of death in the world. So more people die every year from smoking or being exposed to smoke than all the people in the world die of malaria or HIV, AIDS, and tuberculosis combined. So it's about 1 billion people will die this century from tobacco-related deaths. 1 billion. 1 billion. So we've learned a great deal about the dangers of cigarettes, and much of my research career has been looking at the effects of parents smoking cigarettes on their children. And when I started doing that, it had been only about 10 years that people recognized that there was something called secondhand smoke. You all know what secondhand smoke is? Yes?
Yes.
So probably 10 years before myself and some of my colleagues started to work on this, it was discovered that it would be dangerous for adults to be in the house with somebody who smokes or near somebody who smokes. That led to almost 60 years of work on behalf of huge numbers of people around the world to help reduce cigarette smoking. Took about 60 years, and we've had great success, although at least in the United States, still about 15%, or 1 out of every 6 or every 7 adults smoke. And to me, smoking is not an adult problem, it's a children's problem. And it's a children's problem because almost everybody who smokes began when they were a child. In the United States, the average age of somebody who starts smoking cigarettes is 12 years, all right? And there was almost no such thing as lung cancer till the middle of the 20th century, because cigarettes were created right around the turn of the 19th century to the 20th century, all right? And so doctors began to see something called lung cancer, which they had never seen before. And the field of science that I use is something called epidemiology. And epidemiology was created because doctors were convinced that their patients were dying by smoking, and the tobacco industry kept on telling them, no, no, this is not true. And so scientific methods were put together to show that this was dangerous. It turns out that almost 1 out of every 5 people who die of lung cancer never smoked a cigarette, but grew up in a household with parents who smoked. By 1960, remember I said it started right at the beginning of the 20th century, by 1960 over 50% of the people in the United States were smoking cigarettes. And although we focus on lung cancer, and there are 17 different cancers that we know are caused by smoking or being exposed to somebody else's smoke, but heart disease is a big problem. Barbara Bush died just the other day. She was a smoker. She had congestive heart failure and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease as a consequence of something that she started to do when she was a child. But many people who have heart disease or lung disease or any of these cancers never smoked but grew up as children in smokers' homes. So we've made great progress with cigarettes, although I must tell you, people use tobacco as a way to get nicotine. So nicotine is the chemical in tobacco that leads people to smoke. And it's probably the most addicting drug that people are ever exposed to. So it's easy to blame people and say, oh, you should know better, you shouldn't be smoking around your children. The truth is that many people try for much of their lives to stop smoking. And if you are genetically predisposed, or if your mother was exposed during pregnancy, or she smoked, you're much more likely to become a smoker yourself. So for some people, it's just 2 or 3 cigarettes, and they become addicted for life. Now, there are ways to treat this, right? There are medicines that work very well. There are public policies that work, that have been put in place. Taxation is the number one. But cigarettes are now being replaced with other forms of tobacco. And that's what I'm really here to speak with you about. But I do want to go back to this being a children's issue. Does everybody know what sudden infant death syndrome is? You ever hear this term? SIDS? Some of the mothers, all of you know what this is? So it's something that leads to the death of babies, usually between 3 months and a year of life, that we don't really know the mechanism of how the babies die, but the leading preventable cause of this death, and what's more tragic than the death of a baby, what's more life-affirming than the birth of a baby, what brings us more joy than our children, the leading preventable cause of SIDS, or sudden infant death syndrome, is mothers smoking during pregnancy or after pregnancy, in the first few months of life, or living in a house with somebody who smokes. So the most common cause of hospitalizations of our children is asthma. And the most common thing that leads to asthma that we know of is being exposed to secondhand smoke early in life or prenatally. So if you looked at animals and exposed the pregnant animals to smoke and then looked at the baby's lungs, you would see that the lungs are underdeveloped in virtually all animals that were exposed to nicotine during pregnancy. All right? So 70% of all antibiotics, you know what antibiotics are? Everybody knows what that is? 70% of them are written for ear infections for our children. Of all the antibiotic prescriptions in the United States, 70% are for ear infections, and the leading preventable cause of ear infections is exposure to secondhand smoke in the house, right? So lots of people who become overweight develop diabetes. If you live in a house with a smoker and you're overweight, you're much more likely to develop diabetes. You're much more likely to have hearing problems. I don't know how wealthy the members of your congregation are, but the cost of cigarettes in many, many families uses up enough money that it changes the whole nutritional status of what you can bring into the house. So at the same time, the only thing, there is something called the Centers for Disease Control, which monitors epidemics and comes out with regulations about what antibiotics or vaccines we should get. They point out that the greatest epidemic of the 20th century was cigarettes. And the greatest public health story of the 20th century is cigarettes, because you had this great increase across the beginning of the first half of the century and then the decrease. But now there's a new epidemic that's worldwide of using hookahs, water pipes, to smoke shisha. It's not just people who are in your congregation. It's not just people from the Middle East. It's all over the world. Earlier this week, I was in the Caribbean giving the commencement speech at one of the medical schools there, and I came across 2 hookah bars. Earlier in January, one of the reasons why I couldn't come sooner is that I work with the Catholic Church in Italy taking care of refugees to Italy. 3 hookah bars. My wife joined me. I was in Milan. We went to Venice, which I've never been to. 2 hookah bars. Last year, I was a visiting professor in Slovakia. I gave a whole long talk with PowerPoint at the medical school, and everybody said to me, "This is fascinating, but we don't have this problem here." And they took me out to lunch. We passed 2 hookah bars. So there is a German poet from the 19th century, Goethe, who said that we see mostly what we're looking for. That there are things all around us that if we're not looking for them, we don't see them. But individuals who do come from the Middle East tend to use hookahs more than other individuals. Although it's spreading across the world. You all know what Yelp is? It took my students to teach me what Yelp is. We've actually published a paper showing that you can see the growth of hookah bars around areas of universities or where young people live. So the East Village, Williamsburg. This is not an accident. This is not an accident. This is a consequence of greed, of an industry that has enormous amounts of money, that doesn't mind selling products that ultimately, if used as they were intended, will kill almost 50% of the people who use them. So the CDC, again, points out that all of our progress of the past half century with cigarettes can be wiped out by this hookah epidemic. And so as a consequence, I've become involved for the past decade or so in studying hookah. I myself actually spend a fair amount of time in the Gulf region. We have a doctor here with us, a young woman who's a doctor from Saudi Arabia. I spend most of my time in the United Arab Emirates, where I study hookah and something called medwak. Do you know medwak? Yeah, so there's almost nothing that's known about medwak. But I go to the United Arab Emirates because I could do studies there because it's so common. So there you could see 3, 4, 5 women spending an afternoon sharing a water pipe, right? It's a terrible thing because you're breathing in somebody else's air. So any infection that somebody has, you're sharing that. So we know a lot more at this point about cigarettes than we do about hookahs, and we know more about the ill effects of hookahs on people who use them than we know about the effects of me using a hookah on my wife or my children. That's what I'm here to speak with you about tonight. And my children, who are grown now, would tell you that I would go anywhere in the world to listen to myself speak, and I could speak forever, so I don't want to do this. I want to just tell you that 1 hour of smoking a hookah, for the person who smokes a hookah, you ready?
Yes.
Is about the equivalent of 5 packs of cigarettes. So I have friends who the first thing they do when they go home is smoke a hookah. It's part of their tradition. They do it with their father. They do it with their uncles. So the message needs to get out that this is a very dangerous thing. But I'm a pediatrician, and I'm here concerned about your children. So I've spent 40 years doing research on secondhand exposure from cigarettes. And now for the past 10 years, I've been doing it with hookahs. So I've studied it in hookah bars in the East Village and Williamsburg. I've studied it in hookah lounges in Dubai and Abu Dhabi and Sharjah. And I've published the only paper that there is in the world that we did in Dubai, looking at the quality of the air in homes where people smoke hookahs. I'm going to repeat myself. I'm here because of them. They're the source of my joy in my life. That's what I've devoted my life to. So that study showed that if I smoked a hookah here and one of my students over there smoked a cigarette, within a few minutes, there'd be more smoke from the hookah that they'd be breathing in than from the cigarette, because it's like a mini atomic bomb comes out when you blow out. Because it goes through the water, you can breathe in more deeply. It doesn't irritate the same way. It's flavored, and you could take much more in, hold it in, and blow it out. So we don't know anything about what it does to children. And as a consequence, it's taken me years, literally years, to get the funding from the US government to study the effects of people on this side of the room, I think, smoking hookah, and I need to take that back. So there's somebody back there who works with me who published a paper last year in the scientific literature showing that for the first time in the history of the United States, more young women were smoking than young men, and it was hookahs that they were smoking. So it's not fair for me to blame the men. We still don't know much about this at all, is part of why I am really here. So we have a study that I'm hoping some of you would like to participate in. So this study entails people, and that's why I brought my students, because those are the people who will be going to people's homes, if they allow us to do this, to collect the air. That's the first thing. So there are machines that you collect air with. So there are government agencies that have regulations about clean air, right? So all the hookah bars are not allowed to use any shisha that contains tobacco. There are other things that you can combust other than tobacco. All the shisha bars say that they don't use tobacco. We go to these hookah bars. Every hookah bar in Manhattan has tobacco. So it's a great privilege and a source of great satisfaction when you spend years doing research and the government listens to you and closes these down if they're using tobacco, right? But little ones don't go to hookah bars. Little ones spend much of their time indoors in homes. So we are here to ask if there are any families where there's one person, or maybe more, where there's at least one person who uses a hookah, and at least one adult who doesn't use a hookah, and at least one child between the age of 10 and 18. So the 10 to 18, I'm much more interested in the younger children, but there are things called institutional review boards that protect the public from researchers. And the rules get more and more difficult the more and more disadvantaged the participants are. And so children, there are limits on what you can do involving children, although nothing that we want to do is anything different than what goes on in the doctor's office. So, well, we do want to collect the air, and we would like to test the hookah smoker, the adult who's not a hookah smoker, and a child between the ages of 10 and 18 on their hearts and their lungs by using machines. They're standardized machines that are used regularly. And if people were willing, and nobody has to participate in this, and nobody who participates needs to do all of it. And I forgot to mention that this is completely private. None of the information, even I won't know the information of who the individual person is. This is required by law, not just for this type of study, but many, many not such good things have been done by people, either intentionally or unintentionally, who are scientists or physicians. And there are reasons special reasons at this very special time to protect people's privacy. This is a very special time in where we are. And I can't tell you how grateful I am to the Imam for making this possible and for you even listening to me. So I don't know that I would eagerly let somebody into my house. I'm not a child anymore, but I come from refugees. I know what it is like to grow up in a family that felt persecuted, that was afraid, that came here because of fear, because it was the only place to come. So I'm not even sure that I would embrace with open arms having a stranger come. That's why I brought the people who work with me, because I find them irresistible and I can see their goodness when I look at them. They're all doctors, one from Saudi Arabia, one from Ethiopia, or they're studying to be doctors, or they're studying to be scientists, or they're studying to be public health professionals. So I brought them because I wanted you to see that these are not people that you would be uncomfortable having in your home if, in fact, you don't feel uncomfortable having somebody in your home. Am I making sense? There's every reason to be cautious. We're not here to do any harm. We're here hoping that you can help us learn about not just the children sitting here, and not just the children of your faith, and not just the children of the United States, but children everywhere. Because this is happening all around the world of using hookahs, and we know nothing about what it does to children. We know enormous amounts about what cigarette smoke does to children, and this looks, again, like 1 hour of doing it is 5 packs of cigarettes. And secondhand smoke is actually much more dangerous than is smoking this myself, right? When I blow it out, in the couple of seconds that it's in my body, there are biological changes that make what I blow out, and there are about 7,000 chemicals that I blow out, much more dangerous. So we're hoping, and I'm going to stop shortly so that you can ask me questions. And if you ask me really good questions, I probably won't be able to answer them. And that's one of the reasons why they're here, because they do the work on the ground. So we'd like to find these families that would allow us to come to their houses twice, 24 hours apart, because we need to sample the air before, during, and after. And we want to know not just about acute changes right now to your children if we were doing hookah, but those changes last for the next day. You understand what I'm saying? So there is some compensation. I always feel awkward when I say this. There's $50 for every person who, in that household, up to 3 people who participates. So $150 per household. I assure you I would give you more money if I had the money, and if NYU and the government let me give you more money, because there's a limit on how much money you can give research subjects, because you don't want to entice people to do something that they otherwise wouldn't do because they need money. So we're talking about wearing something that will catch your respiratory rate and your heart rate and how your heart rate changes, having somebody blow into something. If you will allow us, you will spit into a cup. And if you would allow us for a minute or 2 minutes, we would put a tiny strip of paper in the nose that collects chemicals that tell us if you're being exposed to things that turn on your whole body to be inflamed. So by inflamed, I mean when you have a sore and it turns red and swollen, that's inflamed. But a lot of heart disease, heart attacks, are a consequence of inflammation. Even depression is probably a result of inflammation. Arthritis, as we get older, is a consequence of inflammation. So we want to see if young people and people living in homes with people who use hookahs are experiencing inflammation. That's the whole thing that we want to do. Can we take questions?
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Weizmann. So please give Dr. Weizmann a round of applause, please. Thank you, Doctor. We will open the door, inshallah, for questions and answers. But before that, I mentioned today in the Friday speech about the importance of this information for us to give fatwa and to give the Islamic ruling. In Islam, we have to listen to the physicians and the doctors and the researchers and to see the harms of things to say this is haram or halal. We learned that cigarette, hookah, shisha, all these stuffs are very harmful and very hurtful for our health and for the health of our children and our family members. So we thank our guest, Dr. Weizmann, for being with us and to work on the health of our children and our communities, regardless of faiths or colors or ethnicities, because our health is our health. Our children are our children. And we are responsible. We have to, when we see something, we have to say something, right? When we see something wrong, we have to do something regarding it. And al-amr ma'ruf wa-nahy an munkar, to enjoin good and forbid evil. We have to be the role model and the good example for the communities to work hard for stopping this bad habit and bad what do we want to say, addiction. But please, if you can help our guest and his team, you are welcome, and we will help you and participate with you to facilitate and to make it easy for you, inshallah. So if we have any family can help our guest and the team, of course, we will be with you just to help you how, inshallah, to do the right thing and helping the researchers to reach to the information that we need to, inshallah, to tell everybody, especially those who are in position to give the right decisions for our children and our families. Now the door is open for questions and answers, but Sister Rana here is social services manager and also the director of the office. It is an honor to have her with us, and she will, inshallah, help anybody who wants the help to get rid of the smoking or cigarettes. So we'll have, inshallah, a committee working with anybody who needs help. We will have some doctors and some even financial help or anything you need to get rid of cigarettes through our masjid, inshallah. So we'll have that chapter or that committee to help you, to help your children as much as we can. We have medical doctors, we have hospitals or anything, inshallah. We will work with St. Joseph Hospital to help us also with some medicines and other things. Lastly, my brothers and sisters, today is the National Day of Earth Day, and also the National Day of اللي هو smoking, صح؟ اللي هو to get rid of smoking. Do you know that? اليوم العالمي لمحاربة التدخين اليوم. So it is good day. We have to fight smoking and hookah and shisha and argila and nargila and all these things. Jazakumullah khair. So anybody who has any question, sons and daughters, you are welcome inshallah to have a question to our guest. وجزاكم الله خير. We'll start the first question with Dr. Attai, please. تفضل دكتور.
Thank you very much. This wonderful presentation. I appreciate, your situation because I have been involved in research in road accidents for 40 years. So I appreciate, the issue of campaign and the issue of funding. So my first question is, how many universities are involved in such work in the US? That's my first question. Yeah. The second question, what sort of campaigns you are doing and how many campaigns you have done? Because I think the Europeans are more advanced in their sort of campaigns in relation to at least road accidents. I can compare it with other, they are so advanced, and I am sure they are so advanced in the issue of smoking. But as far as the hookah, as you just said, it is something that it's evolving and evolving, so fast, so huge. So that's my second question. Yeah, thank you.
No, thank you. So I can't answer the first question. I could tell you that there are many universities that are now all around the world that are concerned about this because the medical community has woken up to this. We've made great progress in the work that you've done, and as you know, you need information before you can do a good campaign. So the campaigns have worked extremely well for cigarettes, despite the deception of the tobacco industry. Is that me? So the only campaigns that I know of that are going on as relates to hookah at this point is trying to get the medical community and the dental community to know about this and to screen for it, all right? So we did a study at NYU, and almost 80% of the students.
Can you use this again, please? Maybe
Yep.
it will be, yes, in the same way. Very good, doctor.
Does this work better?
Yes, please, in this way. Okay, excellent.
Almost 80% of the students, this is just 2 years ago, didn't have any idea that it was dangerous, and 37% of the medical students had been to a hookah bar in the past month. So the campaigns that are going on are educating physicians at this point, but as you know, you need information, right? I know the people who did the work on infant car seats. Before that, lots of kids died in car accidents. First, you needed the science, then you needed to figure out how do you get people to use that science. So we don't have campaigns because I don't have the information yet to be able to tell people. That's why I am here asking for help to get that information so that one can create campaigns that are knowledge-based. Now, as you know, having done this, every campaign will have to be tailored to a different community. There's such a huge distance between knowledge and changing behavior. Everything I know to improve your chances to live a long, healthy life, I could tell you before the sun comes up, all right? Everything that the medical school knows, we can transmit to you. That doesn't mean that you're going to adopt it, right? You probably know 90% of it already. But nobody would allow me to do a campaign in the public health world unless I first published the results in what's called peer-reviewed journals. So one of the great things about science is that there's a method. 5 times I wrote the grant. I spent almost 5 years writing this grant because there were reviewers who said, you still didn't get this right, you still didn't get that right. And when I say me, it's a whole army of people working with me, all right? But then to publish the results, you have to have peer review as well, as you know. So again, it's blinded. So the people who review my work don't know that it's me who did it. I don't know who's reviewing it. But you need those studies, and research is one of the words in the English language that means what it says. You search and you search and you search again. So my studying houses in Dubai, you need to repeat those kind of studies in other sorts of homes, in other communities. But we want to do more than study the air in the homes. We want to know the effects on non-smokers and the children in the homes. And I don't know if I said it, but I can't say it enough. Nothing that we want to do is painful. Nothing is going to hurt. There is no pain involved in this other than the pain of having strangers in your home for several hours. Well, you're a very welcoming and embracing community. For lots of people, home is shelter, and the last thing you want is other people in the house. The people I've brought with me, I can't imagine anybody not wanting in their house. These are good people. So I don't know if I've answered your question. Lots of people from lots of different disciplines are looking at this.
Any other question, please? Yes, Samu.
Was that a question about vape?
Ask it again. Okay. Does a vape pen affect the child as a hookah pipe would?
So I think you have a young scientist or public health worker or advocate for the health of the public and a very smart person sitting over there. So you want to know the answer? Who knows? Who knows? Vapes, you know, e-cigarettes are only 9 years old. So hookahs go back to the 15th century, right? But there was no e-cigarette until 9 years ago. So we actually have funding, if you have e-cigarette users. We have another study that's the exact same study. We need families where nobody smokes, what's called a control family. We need families where somebody smokes cigarettes so that we can compare e-cigarette families and hookah families to families that don't smoke and families that smoke cigarettes. Does that make sense? That captures the whole universe of families, right? We don't know about e-cigarettes, so we're actually doing that. And just like your question, people are terrified about what e-cigarettes are, and you have to know that the tobacco industry is behind it. I sit on the scientific advisory committee for tobacco products for the Food and Drug Administration. And the tobacco industry already has morphed e-cigarettes into something that you'll hear about pretty soon called IQOS that reintroduces tobacco, but instead of being smoked, it's vaped. All right, so I'm quite certain that the tobacco industry is behind all of this. But that is a great question. People will tell you that e-cigarettes are less dangerous than are cigarettes. I'm not convinced. The other thing is that nicotine, which is why people use this, so there's a type of e-cigarette that I would bet the three of us don't know about, called Juul. So if you ask that question, you know what Juul is, because almost 60% of the e-cigarettes now are Juul. It turns out that the majority of young people who use Juul don't know that it contains nicotine. So one of the things I didn't mention about nicotine is that nicotine changes the whole structure of your brain, making you much more susceptible to using other drugs, whether it's alcohol or cocaine or heroin. You know, 65,000 people died last year of opioid, and a lot of it starts with a doctor giving a prescription for a medicine that if you take it, many of the people here, if they took that medicine for a week or two, would become addicted to it. All right? But if you've been exposed to nicotine, you need less of that medicine to become an addict. Right? So there's a term called blaming the victim. You know this term? You know, I don't see people who vape or smoke as being bad people. They're people who are stuck with a health condition that we have framed in the wrong way. So I think it's a great question. There are 7,000 different flavors to e-cigarettes, all right? With names that would embarrass me to say them. But each of those flavors are made of chemicals. And you're burning those chemicals and inhaling them. So an industry that makes 7,000 flavors, you're so smart. I'm going to ask you, why would an industry make 7,000 different flavors?
To get more people to buy it?
Yeah, and then make it much harder to study it. Who has enough time or enough people or enough money to study 7,000 brands? It's brilliant. It's so evil. And it is something that turns on younger people to do this. And again, the people who are using e-cigarettes are children and young adults. Eventually, it'll be older people because they're going to get hooked on this.
جزاك الله خير. Thank you very much, Doctor. Inshallah, before finishing the lecture, we'll talk بإذن الله Islamically about some issues, especially related to the halal and haram. As I mentioned in the khutbah today, smoking, cigarettes, tobacco, shisha, argila, and electrical or electric cigarettes, also all of them from the point of view of Islam is haram. Is haram. Haram is the opposite of halal. It means it is prohibited. So anyone is smoking will get more sayyi'at, and according to the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will be punished in the hereafter, because he is responsible about his health and the health of his family. He is responsible of his body and the body of his children. So this is haram. We have to take care of that. I know that it is a bad habit. By the way, Doctor, I want to ask this question. Is it, smoking tobacco, or is it considered addiction or just a habit?
No, it's there are lots of people who smoke and aren't addicted. All right, there are people who are able to smoke on weekends or occasionally, but for most people who smoke, it becomes an addiction. For most people, it becomes an addiction. And unfortunately, we act like people are bad people if they have an addiction. I drink coffee every morning. If I don't drink coffee, I don't feel well. I'm addicted. I withdraw. People who drink coffee are addicted to it. So coffee's not a harmful thing, but it is, again, something that your body becomes dependent on.
We are addicted with khubz and the bread. And
say it again?
We are addicted with the bread. So as Arabs, I can't eat without having bread, carbs, especially wheat and rice and something, you know.
So I guess I'm an honorary member of your tribe because I have the same problem.
Absolutely. So I know also the sugar and the salt. It is harmful, but if you take from the salt or from the sugar more than your need, and we have to be balanced and to take everything according to the need of the body. Any other question, please? Any other? Yes, Ammo, mashallah.
I'm just wondering, why do people smoke? And I'm not talking about like the fact that there's nicotine in it.
Repeat the question. Say.
Okay. I'm good. I'm good.
Yes.
I don't need the microphone.
No. Say by the microphone. This is very good question.
Okay.
Why do people smoke? Like, they all get the warnings on the ads on TV, like smoking is bad, or it's gonna cause you, it's gonna give you cancer. Why do they start it anyway? Like, why do they start smoking?
So that is such a wonderful question. You could have a career, seriously, studying variations of that question for the rest of your life. There are behavioral and social scientists who study this. One of the things is that lots of young people, a big part of being an adolescent is learning how to separate from your family. Separation is the hardest thing in life. Some people will tell you that all the separations that we go through, all the different stages, is preparation for the ultimate separation. So a lot of young people do risky things because it makes it easier for them to rebel, to separate. I have a daughter who's now a woman who went to the Peace Corps and went to Peru. And I went to visit her and I said, Abigail, you needed to go 6,000 miles away over the highest mountains in the Western Hemisphere because you had such a relationship with your father that there was no way for you to become an adult without separating that far. So adolescents, you study accidents. So car accidents are largely young people, not just because they're new drivers, but because they drive fast. They don't follow the rules. There are all sorts of risky things that younger people do, but there are huge influences. So if you grow up in a household where you see people smoking, you're much more likely to do it. If you think it's not harmful, you're more likely to do it. Those ads, by the way, when you say everybody knows that it's harmful, if you say, so a lot of you are parents, right? So the people here who are parents will understand what I'm going to say. If you say something to your kids with the wrong tone, the right thing with the wrong tone, if I'm too harsh with you that you're not supposed to do this, I could actually, unconsciously to you, encourage you to do the thing that I'm trying to protect you from doing. So there are countless things. The other thing is the advertising is enormous. When you say carbs and salt, it's all related to advertising by people who are not concerned with the health of the public, but are concerned with greed and making money. So I don't know, I'm fascinated by this. The person who I think is responsible for more deaths than Hitler, Mao Zedong, and Stalin combined. So there was a man named Edward Bernays, who was a nephew of Sigmund Freud. Do you know the name Sigmund Freud? So was a great psychiatrist.
He died with the cancer.
No, of the mouth, and he was addicted to cocaine. The world's greatest psychiatrist was addicted to cocaine. But his nephew invented advertising and said that the problem with democracy is that people are allowed to think for themselves, and that the real masters of the universe will be people who can plant ideas in other people's heads so it changes their behavior. So the same thing that leads to the obesity epidemic, the same thing that leads to people getting hypertension because it's cheaper to put salt as a preservative in food than it is to put safer things, it all goes back to the same sort of greed. So it's an unbelievably important and complicated question. If you have friends, you go off to college, all right, and you have friends who do something, and your parents aren't there. And I've said, and it's hard to really grasp this, that just on, you've gone to Friday evening prayers, and you go to a friend's house, and the friend pulls out an e-cigarette, and nobody knows that an e-cigarette who's using it is dangerous, right? Because people haven't done the studies and they haven't done the campaigns, all right? And you try it. it may be that one evening that you do it, you become addicted to it. If you are a person who's predisposed to become addicted to something, you may spend a good part of the rest of your life trying to stop doing this. So it's a great question.
Sister, please, Rana.
I have a question. Thank you so much, Dr. Weitzman. I wanted to know, are the same addicting agents found in hookah as they are in cigarettes?
The nicotine is there for sure. The nicotine is there in higher concentrations. The particulate matter, which is the materials that get stuck in your lung, is there in higher concentrations. But there are 7,000 different chemicals when you breathe out. So people are actually, not me, but there are other people around the world studying that question. But in terms of something called black carbon, organic carbon, a number of metals have been shown to cause cancer, and they're in higher concentrations in hookah than they are in cigarettes. So I come from potato farming people, all right, in Central Europe. And when I began to have a successful career, my grandmother would say, "They pay you to do this work? You're getting paid? This is common sense. If we know this about cigarettes, and you tell me that this is equivalent to 5 packs of cigarettes, why do you have to do the study to say that this is harmful?" The truth is you have to do the study because people won't believe you, right? I can't say that hookah is bad for your children unless I can really show that it's bad for your children. Otherwise, I'm extrapolating from other things. But all the evidence that we have is that it's worse. But if you do it once a week, all this stuff is so complicated. If I do it once a week compared to smoking cigarettes all day long, maybe it's not so harmful, to be perfectly honest with you. You know, people are going to need to do what was done with cigarettes, which is to follow people who started when they're young till they're our age and see what the long-term effects are. Because I don't know the patterns. It goes to his question, exactly to his question. It's a variation that there are people who study the patterns of how people smoke. I have to tell you that I was addicted to cigarettes and was a marathon runner. All right? And I was becoming famous as a young doctor in Boston by publishing papers about the effects on children. And I had tried to stop many times. Why did I start? Because I went to medical school when I was 19, and it was the first time I ever was away from my parents, and I was so lonely and so sad and believed that I was so tough. I could never become an addict. Give me a break. There's nobody on the earth that's stronger than me. That's what I thought at 19. And within a week or two, I became addicted to this, right? So there are countless questions that need to be answered. I don't know that this is so dangerous if you do it occasionally. Yes, sir.
Yes, Sam.
Why do kids overseas start earlier at smoking than kids here in America?
Do you know that for a fact? I don't know that for a fact. So out of the mouths of children. So some of the best questions that people will tell me, "Oh, you're so smart," have been questions that I can't answer.
Give him, please, a round of applause for this child.
So how would we find the answer to that question? Yeah, but there are different, so you're absolutely right, but there are different, I bet you we could find, I can't, but the students who work with me, because they're much better with the internet, they could find everything that's known about this in the next half hour. And in looking by Google Scholar and other ways, you would then come up with areas of questions that you would do a different level of research. What we're trying to do from our point of view, from our side, is really difficult work. You understand what I'm saying? But I don't know if you're right. I do know that I have a picture that I use when I give talks to doctors that shows a child from Indonesia that's probably 5 or 6 years old smoking a cigarette. But I don't know, can you do me a favor? Ask Lily. So Lily's one of the students who knows more about tobacco than I do. Lily's been working with me since she's 17 and she's starting medical school. So this is the person I know who knows the most about tobacco. But this young man just asked me, why do young people in other countries start smoking earlier than people do in the United States? Was that the question? Is that true?
Are you thinking of a certain country in particular?
Middle East.
Middle East?
Palestinians, Jordanian, Egyptian,
So
and you name it.
So I don't know how it is in other countries. I can speak about my own experience in China. So in China, smoking starts really young, mostly because everyone's really poor. Cigarettes are really cheap, and it's kind of a way to de-stress. And it's very available to the community. I remember one time I went to a dinner and people were giving out alcohol and they were also giving out cigarettes. So I don't know how it is in the Middle East, but that's how it might be.
I will answer this question.
Okay.
I will answer it for one or two reasons. First, most of people are very stressful in the Middle East. The stress is very high because of the dictators, because of the occupation, because of different issues related to the situation in commerce and other issues. This is one. Second, you know that in Islam and in the Middle East, drinking liquor is forbidden. So بتفششوا في الدخان. So because the liquor is forbidden there, so they find something else. So the cigarettes is easier, and unfortunately in the past, some scholars they said it is not forbidden. So it is makruh. It is permitted, but is not good, but it is not forbidden. So they thought that it is not forbidden. So most of people, they use that issue. Third, the governments, unfortunately, they did not fight smoking in our countries. They did not work publicly or and also socially. Unfortunately, it is a social issue. When I was a child in your age, all people around me used to smoke. All of them. I didn't even know one old person, adult, who doesn't smoke. And it was a kind of be generous when you are visited by your neighbors to bring different kinds of cigarettes and smoking to offer them. And I am one of those who was carrying that kinds of cigarettes and giving to the people. I think this is haram, this is forbidden, this is very bad, especially for children. I told the congregation today that unfortunately, the father smokes half of the cigarette, the child will smoke the other part. This is our childhood time. So father is hurting not only himself, he is hurting also his children, his family. So we want everybody to work hard with each other in researching and in working hard to show how much we hurt one another and each other with this bad habit and bad addiction.
May I? So the wisdom that the Imam just gave you, I can give you a personal example of. I started to tell the story that when I was young, I became a smoker, and it helped my career greatly. I became a father. I loved my children in a way that I never thought I could ever love anything. And one day I was giving my daughters a bath, and in the bathroom I was smoking a cigarette. I had tried to stop smoking many times, and my wife walked in and she said, "You do know that you're a hypocrite, don't you?" And I said, "I'm a hypocrite?" And she said, "You tell everybody that you love these children, and you're poisoning your children." I never smoked a cigarette again. Until we show, I tried and tried and tried. So finding that something is hurting our children changes behavior. That's a great part of a campaign.
It's the approach.
Right. But first we have to show it.
طيب والله we have more questions from our children, so we have to welcome them, right? So yes, Ammo. Smoking, is smoking haram? ولا مكروه? Do you want me to ask Dr. He asking, is it haram or makruh according to Islam? I told you it is haram. Haram means it is forbidden. It is haram 100%. We have, Muslim has to be far away from that because it hurts his body, his health, his lungs, even his psychological side, and hurting also people around him, and even the environment is affected badly by that issue. So thank you very much for the question. Ammo?
What great kids you have.
Yes, question.
But this time ask me a question I can answer, please. So it's a more complicated question than a yes or a no. So it does deliver, often does deliver more nicotine, all right? So to the extent that nicotine is the chemical that makes you addicted, it also, you're getting more of it. Also, nicotine alters both your lungs and your heart, so the nicotine portion of it is bad. People in Sweden have come up with a new way of chewing tobacco, or what used to be called spit tobacco, that you get less of the carcinogens, the things that cause cancer. But there are still chewing tobaccos that are very bad. I'm a big baseball fan, all right? So when I was a little boy, because all the baseball players used to chew tobacco and spit, so I have pictures of myself in Little League costumes, outfits, spitting, because I kept licorice in my mouth so I could act like one of my heroes. But it goes back to your question about why do people smoke? If you grow up as a kid admiring somebody who smokes, you're going to want to be like that kid. Actually, somebody that I trained has spent his whole career studying what turns kids on to want to smoke. But Lily, have I answered this question appropriately?
Yes.
Okay, good. I would just say that chewing tobacco just affects other parts of your body more so than just a cigarette would. So because it's right here, it affects much more of this area than like the rest of your body.
Okay. طيب. The prayer is 9:05. So let us, inshallah, take 5 minutes only to finish our lecture. But we have a word from our president, Brother Omar Awad, inshallah. This is one. And after Salah, if you have any question, you are welcome, inshallah. Our guest, Dr. Michael Witzman, and his team will be with us, inshallah, after Salat Isha. So if you have any question or you need him for participating in the research, so please reach to us or to the team, and we will help you. If you need a help to get rid of the smoking, inshallah, we will have a program with Sister Rana, and the last word with the brother Omar Awad.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Assalamu alaikum. Doctor, thank you so much for this. Mike and Alex and Jeremy, thank you so much, guys, for being here. Thank you so much for coming to ICPC. Real quick, at the Islamic Center, Passaic County, we have set for ourselves a very clear vision and hope. And that it's a community inspired by the Quran and the prophetic way. The Sheikh this morning mentioned the relationship between hookah and smoking and the core of our religion. That anything that harms anyone, it becomes our core responsibility. I want us today, and I pledge and I tell the team that I want to be one of the participants to come and I'm not going to say which group I am from. You can come and screen the air in my house. And I want to donate whatever stipend that you guys give back to this great initiative. But I want everyone here, please, let's make that commitment together that smoking in Passaic County and hopefully in New Jersey and hopefully in the United States and hopefully in the world become a campaign that we're fighting against. Because anything that harms any human being is something that we are against. The Prophet ﷺ, when he said that, "Man ra'a minkum munkaran falyughayyirah," whoever sees something that is wrong, that he has to change it, biyadih, with his hands or with his tongue or with his heart, and that's the least that we can do, that we can actually displace this stuff internally. So I want us collectively together as a community at the Islamic Center Passaic County to say that smoking and hookah is the campaign that we're fighting against. I sit down with our board and I sit down with our team and we say that our true competition in this area is the hookah lounges on Main Street. These are the true competition that we have. These are the things that we truly need to work against. So I hope that we make this commitment together today, every single one of us, to say that inshallah, bismillah, together we will all reduce the number of usage of hookah and cigarettes in our community. We truly thank you, Doctor, for being here and your team. We want to tell you that you have a partner, the Islamic Center of Passaic County, and all our network within New Jersey to help you, inshallah, get more data and spread this message across New Jersey, inshallah. So we're an active participant in that campaign. So thank you so much for being here.
So the thank you is to you. We're so grateful, and I feel like family.
Dr. Fuad Rashid, do you like to say a word? Our chairman, the chairman of the board, Dr. Fuad Rashid. So, and he is, he lost his voice, not because of cigarettes, something else. May Allah bless you. So we pray for you, inshallah, to have a quick recovery. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you very much. Inshallah, we'll go to pray. Our friend, inshallah, will stay with us, inshallah, after prayer.
You know, there are a bunch of Muslim members of this team. There are a bunch of members of the team. Some of my...
Yes, they are welcome. Yes, welcome. Okay, it is an honor to have them. We thank also the whole team, among them some of our family members or the community members, and inshallah it is an honor to have them. We will continue working together. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
استووا يرحمكم الله استووا اعتدلوا تراصوا سدوا الفرج ثابكم الله الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما إنا عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما جهولا ليعذب الله المنافقين والمنافقات والمشركين والمشركات ويتوب الله على المؤمنين والمؤمنات وكان الله غفورا رحيما الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر
الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة عليها ملائكة غلاظ شداد لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون. يا أيها الذين كفروا لا تعتذروا اليوم إنما تجزون ما كنتم تعملون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا توبوا إلى الله توبة نصوحا عسى ربكم أن يكفر عنكم سيئاتكم ويدخلكم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار يوم لا يخزي الله النبي والذين آمنوا معه نورهم يسعى بين أيديهم وبأيمانهم يقولون ربنا أتمم لنا نورنا واغفر لنا إنك على كل شيء قدير. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Kids, sit down, please. I have a message for you. Please sit down, everybody. Please sit down. Shh. Tomorrow, inshallah, there is a special event for AMP, American Muslim for Palestine. It is the 70 years remembrance of Nakba. Everybody is welcome, inshallah, to attend. So do you know what time? At 6. Do you know where? Huh? Hasbrook Hyatt, Hilton, right? So please, you will have the information outside. We need, inshallah, we want you all, inshallah, to participate and to be there. Who will be there, inshallah, tomorrow? Bidnillah. Jazakum. Raise your hand, inshallah, you will be there. Raise your hand. If you don't want to be, raise your hand too. So raise your hand, everybody. I will be there, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Second, those who will be with us for tomorrow, to, inshallah, the trip in New York, we want you, inshallah, to be at 9 here in the front of the masjid. The bus will leave, inshallah, 9:15, at most, inshallah, to 9:30, but inshallah before 9:30. So if you don't come 9:15, you will not come with us. Jazakumullah khair. Third, inshallah. 11 there. موعدنا there, our time there, it will start at 11, inshallah. We will leave at 4 there, from there. We learned little bit about smoking and cigarettes and these issues. We want you to talk to your children about the danger of smoking as first smoking hand or second smoking hand. And we want to educate our children that it is haram. Yes, the lecture is on the YouTube of live stream, YouTube channel of ICPC, and also the khutbah is also there. So we want to learn what is haram, what is halal. We want, inshallah, to teach our kids. And for those who are mabli, tested with smoking cigarettes, so please, from this moment, pledge with Allah that you will leave it very soon. and it is must to leave it يعني مباشرة directly or gradually, but try to leave it from today. And inshallah the masjid will help you as much as we can. Inshallah we will have a committee will help you inshallah for psychological counseling or medical treatment or participating with the hospital or any need you need inshallah. So you can go to the office, talk with our sister Rana, she will inshallah help you with that. The fourth, Jazakallah khair. The fourth, as we mentioned today, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said it clearly in the Quran, يُحِلُّ لَهُمُ الطَّيِّبَاتِ وَيُحَرِّمُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْخَبَائِثِ. الطيبات are permitted. الخبائث are forbidden. الدخان is طيب or خبيث? It is خبيث. It means it is harmful. It is very bad. My message to our children, be far away from bad friends and for friends who are smoking, because most of the time smoking starts from friendship and company. When you have friends who are smoking, you will smoke one day. So when you have some friends who are smoking, tell them, please don't smoke while I am with you. Don't smoke. Don't allow anybody to smoke in your house. Don't smoke or don't let even any brother or sister to smoke while you are there. Tell them this is, I can't accept it, I can't bear it, and so on. Don't go to the restaurants, they have hookah or smoking cigarettes. Don't go there at all. Don't stay very late until 2 a.m. or 12 a.m. smoking, leaving your family and your wife while you are socializing with your friends. This is haram, this is not good, this is wasting your time, wasting your money, hurting and harming your health, harming and hurting your family, and so on. So please, no more going to hookah places. قاطعوها, boycott these places. I know they will make a war against you and me. Of course, I am not the only one who is waging that war. You are with me. Who is with me? You have to be men, please. مش تخلوني لحالي هون بعدين. Please. You know, we have to be together, united. مظبوط محمود? Yes, Mahmoud. I did.
I understand you have hookah, and I'm not for it. I am against this, and make it clear to the owner that we will not.
طيب. Mahmoud, I am with you. 3 advices. First, if you have a store, don't rent it to a hookah store.
I agree.
So, this is one subject. I know. This is one. You and me and everyone. So we don't want, it is haram to rent a place you own to be a hookah store or hookah cafe or something. This is one. Second, boycott these restaurants. Don't go there. Tell them, wallahi, I say it for them loudly. I don't go for these places except for necessity. يعني بيكون في something we have to go for some reason, but don't go to these places as much as you can except for necessity. Necessity, you know what is necessity. يعني في شيء غير ضرورية انك تروح there. جزاكم الله. أبو نعيم تفضل. Yes, you can. But ما تحكيش عن حالك زمان. لا أنا عارف. أبو نعيم كان دخن زمان.
السلام عليكم. I will tell you my own experience about smoking.
ارفع صوتك هيك عشان.
I will tell you about my own experience about smoking. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me hidayah in 1981. I used to smoke pack and a half a day. Now, I grow my beard about 1982, 1983. I used to smoke. I said, smoking with beard is not going to match. Either I shave my beard or I quit smoking. Wallahi, I'm telling you the truth. and I decide to quit. That's it. I'm not going to shave my beard. Wallahi, the minute I decide, I swear to Allah, Allah witness me. I never came to my mind at all. The minute I said, that's it, that's it. You see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ta'ib, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cleanse him from whatever he is. This goes for smoking. Wallahi, I swear to God, this goes for drugs, for everything. If somebody addicted in anything, if he make real tawbah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cleanse him, will cleanse them, because even the Sahaba, they used alcoholic. They used to be alcoholic. When the Khamr said, no, that's it, no. Now, if somebody alcoholic, he's going to have a problem to quit right away. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help you to cleanse you, because you make a real tawbah and honest tawbah. Jazakumullah khair.
Takbir. Anybody has good experience too? Abu Muhammad, Allah yastur. تفضل. لا الاستغفار لا ينفع معها. Istighfar is not enough for hookah. It needs tawbah. Tawbah with 4 conditions. First, you have to get rid of that and to feel sad and with eros, what we call it, regretful, and immerse. This is the right word. And immerse of that. So please, توب إلى الله يا أبو محمد. بس تبت إلى الله. ما تبت الله يغفر لك والله الله يسترك. أبو محمد كمل. تفضل. صحيح. نعم. So احنا بدنا معالجة comprehensive treatment for our community. Issues related to many issues. It is a chain of treatment. Brother Sheikh, go ahead please. Salam. Brother Muhammad.
I know everyone here would love to stay away from smoking and would like their children, their family not to smoke. Let me tell you an experience that I had about 50-something years ago. When I first
May Allah bless you, Muhammad.
When I was first introduced to Islam, I was told that Allah was God. And I was told that Allah said, no smoking. At that time, I was in the Nation of Islam. And when you come to the Nation of Islam, they tell you one thing: Allah is God, and you do not smoke. You check the people in the Nation of Islam, they do not smoke because they believe that Allah is God. If you believe Allah is God, and Allah says that is haram, make up your own mind.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, طيب. May Allah bless you all and we thank you very much for your time وجزاكم الله خير. إن شاء الله درس التفسير في Clifton this coming Sunday إن شاء الله after صلاة مغرب. Do you know صلاة الفجر tomorrow 5:10 مش هيك؟ صلاة الظهر 1:15, صلاة العصر 5, صلاة المغرب 7:55, صلاة العشاء 9:15. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. نعم.
alaikum.